going good before we actually start the game. And I want to make sure people actually get into the stream and that everyone's fine. Can you hear sounds? Can you hear music in the background? Hopefully the stream is actually alive and kicking. But hopefully everything's good. Everything's delayed in chat, so somebody said, what the fuck are you doing? But they said, what the fuck are you doing? Okay, for people asking how long, I literally just started the stream like right this second, so don't worry.
Hello. What's up, Beast Boy? I think Dante's here. Dante got his PlayStation back. Let me see though. Dante? There we go. Alright. Yes, of course, Beast Boy. I'll check it.
For encoding and all that kind of stuff, it's a little slow. It's not lagging anymore. Yeah, I clicked out of the game. That's probably why. It might get a little better when I fix stuff around. So, welcome everybody.
Beast Boy, what did you upload?
Video, this is going to be the regular video
February 9th, 2020.
Not because I didn't have anything planned, but because I wasn't ready, or I failed, or I wanted to do different things or whatever. I had a
Beast Boy, found this video you like dancing with a blanket on your head.
Just uploading the video for today, because I wanted to play Pinstripe on the channel anyway, and I knew I wanted to live stream it. Pinstripe and Little Nightmares I want to play as well eventually, but I had a load of other stuff going on recently, like Outlast 2 and Paradigm just finished and everything, so I didn't want to just start a new series immediately. So, and Pinstripe, I don't think it's a very long game. I think it's only a couple of hours, so we might actually get through it in this entire stream, which is my hope. I think it's only like 2 to 3 hours long, so we might actually be able to do it if I have.
Oh, gotcha.
We might have short or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We get into it soon.
Yeah, I'm looking for your channel.
And then we'll all be good and we'll all be happy. But Pinstripe is a game.
Alright, so Beast Boy, I know we delayed this for a while, but today I'm going to teach you how to build a PC. Just so I don't get copyrighted, Dante's playing Jacksepticeye in the background. I think he fell asleep.
And I definitely said yes immediately to doing it. So I have a small cameo in this game. I don't know if all the lines I recorded are in it. There's definitely one section in it that I recorded, which was the second session that I did, which is near the start, I think. And I definitely know that that is still in there. But there's another section that I did voices for as well that I don't know if it's still in the game. I haven't seen it in the final version or anything, so I don't know. So we see if we actually get to that as well, and then you can hear it, oh, Jack Boy in a video game. And there's some other people in it as well. There's Ross and Game Grumps.
Alright, so Beast Boy, I was looking at some weird cases. You know, we have this double parts in this game in here. So that's a project we're working on. I'm looking for your channel, by the way.
There we go. Yeah, this is the problem I run into. It says encoding overloaded, which it shouldn't be, because it's not even that high. So hopefully it's okay. Hopefully it actually.
Nice thumbnail.
If you get lag, it might be a little too annoying
I like
to
it.
watch.
I gotta work on my thumbnails, but that looks good, Beast Boy. Dang.
So hopefully the game is actually showing on the stream. I don't do this often. I don't ever do these types of streams, like video gaming ones, so I have to make sure everything's working properly. I'll be beat out about it as well. I wonder if the tweet is going to say, happy?
So Beast Boy, I will teach you how a standard PC is built. So we're gonna put this in here. So, the first, you can actually decide all the parts, like if you decide to build one. Because like this is basically the simulator of us building our own stuff. By the way, let me know if I'm going too fast.
We may never know.
But yeah, so you can choose whichever parts you want first. You just have to make sure they're compatible with the other parts. Let's just get a case. So let's just go with a standard case with parts, because some cases their parts are differently organized depending on what kind of case you buy, or for pre-built case, like pre-built PCs, what brand it is and how they're organized. But let's get a standard organized part case, like how the parts are usually. So this is the fractional design focus. Yeah, there's a lot of words for this, but yeah, like a lot of company names. So here's your standard case, you know. This looks like it has all the parts, like the normal parts and the normal slots. So I will be going through by this step by step on which parts you need to put in, which ones are compatible, and which ones that. Well, if I'm going too fast, just let me know, and I'll go back a step or two if you need me to.
But to fix it, I'd have to turn off the stream.
Alright, just let me know when you're ready, Beast Boy, and we'll get started.
We'll see what happens. We'll get into the game, we'll play it a small bit, and see how we get on. If it's super bad, we'll think about restarting.
Alright, so the first thing we're going to want to do, we're going to want to unscrew our case. Now, since I'm in free mode, the screws come off automatically. And then, you know, in the normal mode, there's also a upgrade you can get that. We're just going to take off the screws here. Alright, so you don't actually need to take off the second panel. But, like, for me, when I'm fully building a whole new PC, or I'm doing something that requires to take off the second panel over here, I take it off. But for, like, a standard case like this, you just need to take off, like, this panel like this front panel. Well, not this, but this side panel right here that we're looking through. Alright. So the first thing you're gonna want to do, well, you can, like I said, you can choose what parts you want first, but I recommend once you have all your parts, you're gonna want to put in your motherboard first. Now, if you remember the image I showed you over Discord, that yellow board with a bunch of parts on it, the motherboard, if you remember that, that's what we're getting. That was a 1980s one, 1990s. We're using modern parts, so they look different, but they're essentially the same, just more powerful.
What that's all about. How's audio? Are we doing?
Alright, so
Oh, God.
this, of course, the motherboard is very important because it can determine what parts can be compatible. We'll get into that. But so, like, all these specs here, you would of course want to read this on what type, what this all is, all that. Also, some of them have lighting, and I believe with RGB you can customize your lighting. Let me just Google that, double check, because I'm tired.
Oh, only I had like a magnifying glass here, it would have been great.
Or RGB, my bad.
Okay. There's a nice little, like...
So they have lighting just to determine, like, just to see, like, how good your PC, like, lights up with your case to make it look good. And not a totally erased case, like a erased car.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. So I have a cross on my thing. Am I a priest? Okay, Bo, you're freaking me out. Stop that.
Okay, so RGB is a combination of 3 different colors in one package. Red, blue, and green. And RGB LED, products combine 3 different colors to produce 16 million hues of light. Not that all colors are not possible. So I guess it's kind of like a thing where you can choose your own color.
Oh, she's super cute.
Well, we'll get into that.
I love the style of this game.
Alright, so let's get a good motherboard. See, some of these, depending on our case, some motherboards are incompatible, like this one right here. Alright, well, I'll see. These are RGB. They are automatically all off red. You see these top motherboards, the ASRock B450 Steel Legends. One of them is bigger, one of them smaller. I've been thinking about getting one of these for my actual built PC that I'm working on. I think these are pretty good motherboards, but for this one, we'll just choose a different one. Let's make a red PC, because that would be dope. So, I guess let's just kind of choose a random one. Well, let's see here. I want it to be compatible with something.
She's the ghost.
Socket AM4. Okay.
I don't know what I did. Oh, I opened the door. Okay, cool. Don't mind us. Just a regular old father and daughter. Daughter. You're not every fucking shit.
By the way, this is not a full in-depth tutorial of like what sockets and everything, but this first lesson is just like where parts are usually supposed to go and how to install them in a standard PC case.
You look like Disney characters.
Actually, I know what we can do. Let's get this one. This one looks pretty good. The Asus ROG Maximum X formula. Actually, let's try this one. So we're just going to install it like right over in this area. And now we have our motherboard installed. The wires automatically connect. Usually with the motherboard, like you can see, like the add-on, like the motherboard actually has like all these USBs, which is like if for a desktop, this is where you plug in. Well, like for mainly anything, a motherboard is mainly where you plug in a bunch of other things. For example, like your keyboard and mouse, you would plug it into the motherboard essentially. 3, 2, 1, push. Well, that's a cool drive base slot. Okay. Alright, so we have the motherboard in, which is a definite essential. We need this. So when you're ready to continue, let me know when we get on to the next step. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, who was that? What? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh! I thought I did the wrong thing.
That's fine.
Close notebook.
Well, the motherboard is kind of like, it's kind of like the main part. How I think of it is the main part of the computer. The motherboard works with us like all the other parts, like a CPU, which is the brain, that's our next step. A GPU or a graphics card, which is like what produces an image on your screen. Sometimes for an image on your screen, you can just use the motherboard, but it's not as powerful as with a GPU. It works with the PSU, which remember that big like brick I showed you with a bunch of wires that provides power. That works with the motherboard to power the computer. Basically, the motherboard's like kind of like, imagine if you imagine a PC as a person, like the anatomy of a person. I would think of the motherboard as the heart.
I like that like old-timey kind of music. It reminds me of BioShock and Fallout.
If you have any questions, let me know, or if you want, we can get into the next step.
Good morning. This is, whoa, are you breathing bubbles? Oh, I like this guy.
Okay, so the next step we're gonna do is pretty simple, and we're gonna install me and Brecken's favorite component, the CPU, which it goes right here. So the CPU stands for the Central Processing Unit, I believe. Let me Google that.
I know, you're a bit creepy.
I believe that's what it is. I'm just double checking so I don't tell you wrong information. That's what the Central Processing Unit is. That's what I always called it.
Okay, people are still
yep, Central Processing Unit.
Here we go.
So basically, it's essentially, remember how I said the motherboard's the heart? The CPU, or the Central Processing Unit, is the brain of the computer. It's the brain. Basically, this is where like if the CPU gets instructions, it'll tell it to the rest of the computer on what to do. So the CPU is the brain of a PC. Very important and one of my favorite components. It's actually my top one favorite component of the PC.
I found the GBs back there in a case a little while ago, and you just gave me the Eeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeee my way through this train. Come on, Bo. Don't talk to that weirdo.
Alright, so I guess if you have any questions, let me know. But we will get to installing it.
Looks like it drives fast.
Yes. That's what it does. It's very important. Every PC is like a motherboard. Every PC needs one. Like, you essentially need everything, really. But I'll get into what you need off the bat and what you don't. Technically, you really need everything. But if you're working on building one, but you don't have enough parts for stuff, you can leave stuff out until later. But it's not recommended. Alright, so... well, in my opinion, but yeah. So, the CPU gets very hot when working. So, it has this CPU shield, which we will need to open up. But it also has thermal paste, which we'll get into. But the CPU gets very hot when doing it. So, it gets very hot when working, and it can overheat and fry itself, and fry, like, a motherboard or other components. So, you need to have protection for it, which we'll get into that in just a second. But first, let's choose a CPU. Some of them are not as powerful, some of them are high-powered, like AMD Threadrippers. They are high-powered. Also, CPUs are actually the easiest parts to figure out, in my opinion, because unlike the other parts where there's multiple companies, because this game does not have every computer component. There's a lot more companies with a lot more products out there. So yeah, and some of them aren't compatible with a socket. Like, there's some sockets called AM4, which works with AMD, which only works with AMD socketed, well, AM4 socketed motherboards that support AMD's processor. So, but this one supports Intel. And the easiest part, in my opinion, about deciding which CPU is that there's only two brands of CPUs. Because for other parts, there's a bunch of different brands that make them and all that. But there's only two different types of CPUs. There's Intel, which is pretty good, but for gaming-wise, I would go with AMD. They're my favorite. But this motherboard is not compatible with AMD because they really only use this one socket called AM4. They probably have other sockets, though. Yeah, see, a Threadripper is called, instead of an AM4, its socket is a TR4. And, they all have different powers and all that. So, this one, some of these Intels are not compatible, but some are. Intel has a lot more types of sockets. So this socket is called, its main name is LGA1151, or some people, it says in parentheses, Coffee Lake is what they usually call this certain socket. So since this motherboard only supports Coffee Lake sockets, only CPUs that have the Coffee Lake chipset on it, the socket, that they only work with those motherboards. Which is why if you're building a computer, you gotta get very looking into the parts. Because it matters on what kind of sockets things need to be, what kind of wattage it is, frequency, all that. I guess frequency, I'm pretty sure, yeah. But this one we're gonna go with a pretty powerful one, this Intel i9. There's multiple versions of it. We're just gonna go with this one. Beast Boy, if you need me to repeat something right now, let me know, or we can continue on installing it.
Something as well. The guy who made the game said that his wife knitted scarves like this, and that she sent them out to the people who were actually in the game, which is super nice. I haven't gotten mine yet. I thought he asked me if he wanted to send it yesterday, so I get it eventually.
Okay. Alright, so we're gonna use this pretty powerful one. This Intel i9. There's probably more powerful Intel i9s, but this one has a compatible socket. So usually you would actually not install the motherboard first. You would actually have the motherboard on your your table, install the CPU, and then put the motherboard in. But this game, you just have it like this. So basically, you don't want to touch the top of the CPU or the bottom or this socket right here on the motherboard, because the pegs are so bendable and valuable that if you bend it, it breaks the part, and then you're gonna have to buy a new one. So in reality, you would just want to carefully install it And once you get installed, it's very satisfying. Dante, are you here? I think he fell asleep. So then you would close the CPU shield, which helps it so it's not as hot. However, we will now need to put thermal paste on it, which is why you should only touch the sides of a CPU when installing it, because like you don't want to touch the bottom because it'll mess with pegs, but you also don't want to touch the top because you need to have the top clean for something that's pretty important. Thermal paste. This is easy to forget. But thermal paste essentially works with the CPU shield, and it basically helps the CPU cools down because it gets so hot while working. Here, let's read this description. Thermal paste improves the efficiency of heat transfer between CPU and cooler. Yep. So now you don't want to apply it like all of it on the top. You just want to apply like a dot, like that, like a very small amount. You don't want to have too. You want to have just a little bit, but you definitely don't want to have too much. So now we have our CPU installed. Pretty easy part. You just have to be careful. And yeah, so if you're ready, Beast Boy, we can continue on to the next step. If you have any questions, just let me know. This next step is pretty easy. Here, actually, let me pull up YouTube on my phone because the comments might go through faster. If my phone will load, that is. Dante? Oh, hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. spoiler for Beast Boy Chat. Another weird case. I think he fell asleep, which that's alright. I got a stream earlier. This is a really difficult PC. Very well protected. Oh boy, why do we actually have one? Oh lord. Oh, what is this? This is like an Xbox Series X. Put it down so you here. I'm sorry if I woke you up.
No.
But Beast Boy used to.
You received a message.
A whole message.
It's from Carter.
Let's see how this case works. Huh. Motherboards can work this damn thing. Okay, very limited ones. It's the tiniest, okay. Shit's like an Xbox Series X over here. You can have it go different ways. Oh, that's cool. That's